You think you know cricket? But what if everything you've been told is only half the story? Because the true origin of cricket wasn't born in a royal court. It wasn't written in any rule book. It was born in the shadows, in muddy fields, by children with no shoes and shepherds with no names. For centuries, it left no trace, no scorecards, no records, no proof it even existed, until a single court case in 1598 accidentally exposed everything. This is the story they never told you. The suspenseful, buried, 450-year-old secret of how a shepherd's game became the second most watched sport on the planet. Stay with me, because this gets dark. For decades, historians searched for the earliest proof of cricket. They dug through archives, they scoured centuries of royal records, and then they found it in a lawsuit. In 1598, a man named John Derrick stood before a court in Guildford, England, and said something that changed sports history forever. He testified that 50 years earlier, around 1550, he and his schoolmates, quote, did run and play at cricket. One sentence, written in a dusty legal document. That single sentence is the only reason we know cricket existed in the 16th century at all. It wasn't a sport yet. It was a boys' game, played in the dirt, with stones and crooked sticks. No rules, no umpires, no glory. But here's what makes it even stranger. Nobody knows how it started. Some historians believe it evolved from a game called bowls, where you'd use a stick to stop a rolling ball from hitting a target. Imagine that. A ball of compressed wool hurtling toward your shins, and all you have to defend yourself is a bent branch from a tree. That is where it began. Look at this bat. If you were watching cricket in the 1760s, that curved hockey-style stick, that was the weapon of choice. Not a mistake, not a prototype. That was the bat. Why? Because bowlers didn't throw the ball, they rolled it. Along the ground, low and fast, like a deadly version of lawn bowls, and a curved bat was perfect to scoop it away. But then, around 1760, everything changed. Bowlers started to pitch the ball, actually launching it through the air, faster, unpredictable, and dangerous. Suddenly, the curved bat was useless. You couldn't play a pitched ball with a hockey stick. Batsmen had to adapt, or get hurt. And that's the moment, right there in the 1760s, that the straight bat was born, not from tradition, not from design, from pure survival. By the late 1600s, cricket had grown teeth. It was no longer a children's game. It was a gambling machine, parish against parish, town against town, with huge sums of money riding on every match. In fact, some of the very first written records of cricket aren't scorecards or match reports. They're lawsuits over unpaid bets. The game was soaked in money, rivalry, and corruption. Sound familiar? And even the most sacred grounds couldn't escape its dark history. Lord's Cricket Ground, the home of the sport, has a ghost story that's been whispered for generations. A figure, dressed in whites, standing in the long room. He nods at players as they walk to the field, and then vanishes into the wall. Is it a legend? Maybe. But there's a reason the story never dies, because cricket has always carried something with it. Something old, something unfinished. So how did a game from the muddy fields of southern England end up on every continent on Earth? It sailed on the ships of the British East India Company, carried by sailors, soldiers, and settlers who brought the game wherever they landed. 1721. Sailors in Gujarat play the first recorded match on Indian soil, a country that would one day become the undisputed capital of cricket. 1803. The game reaches the penal colonies of Australia, played by prisoners and guards, already competitive, already fierce. But here's the fact that will genuinely stop you. The very first international cricket match in history, 1844, was not England versus Australia. It wasn't even played in England. It was USA versus Canada, in Manhattan, New York City. Think about that. Before the Ashes, before the World Cup, Before billion-dollar TV deals, the center of international cricket was a field in New York. History is stranger than fiction, always, from a forgotten clearing in Kent to the billion-dollar spectacle of the IPL. Cricket survived government bans, it survived gambling scandals, it survived 2 world wars, and the constant threat of being replaced by faster, louder sports. And it didn't just survive, it exploded into the second most watched sport in the world, 2.5 billion fans, and growing. So remember, every time a bowler runs in, every time leather meets willow, they are repeating an act that started with a shepherd, a stone, and a crooked stick in a muddy English field 500 years ago. And that you're not just watching a game, you're watching history that refused to be forgotten.